Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what do I truly bring to the table? Not just what you do every day, not your job title, but what do you bring to the table? And that's what we're going to look at today in a continued discussion of my 4 life buckets. Last video we talked about health being the number 1 bucket that we start with. Today is the second bucket, contribution. Following, we will talk about connection and play, but that is for another day. So today, we're going to dive into contribution. But first, let's talk about the 4 life buckets and why I start every new client journey with a look at these 4 buckets. In the concepts and mindset and approach that I use called life drafting, I always start with a look at where you are now. I believe that any attempt to plan for moving forward has to start with where you are now and taking a very clear introspective look where you are in those 4 general areas of your life is the place to start. They are also the first 4 chapters of my new book, Draft You, which is a life drafting journal for teens and young adults to look at self-exploration, goal setting, decision making, and career planning. So it is available broadly, so get yourself a copy. And also you can look on my website for a copy as well at lifedrafting.com. Alright, so let's get into contribution. I am going to talk about contribution a broader level across the various seasons of our life. And I'm going to start with a population that I work very closely with and just wrote a book about, and that is teens and young adults. And for that season of life, contribution is usually school. Maybe it's a first job if you are a little bit older in that group, but for the most part it's school. And in that season of life, your contribution is your investment in who you're becoming. And let's say that again because I think it's very important. At that age, school is your investment in the future. Your future you, your future career, your future way you're going to contribute to yourself, your community, your household, etc. So contribution in that season is a little different than the rest of them, okay? But similar, but a little bit different. Contribution as a whole is, again, what you're bringing to the table. Could be monetarily, but like in the case of school, it is you're contributing internally, learning all you can, working as hard as you can, whether that's trade school, traditional 4-year college, a more specific technical education, or on-the-job training, apprenticeship. You're feeding yourself. You're contributing to yourself and your future way of bringing in money, basically. So let's take a step forward to the next season of life, and for most people that is being a young professional. And being a young professional, you are concentrated on making enough money to get out of your parents' house, making enough money to support yourself in an apartment, purchasing your first house, buying a car, maybe having some entertainment funds, so that contribution is that monetary intake of how you're going to physically support yourself. Now, I think as a young adult, I also think it's beneficial to look a little bit broader in how your work might be contributing to your community or what type of an impact you're making. So it's not only the money that you're making and bringing home and contributing to your household, but also what kind of impact do you want to have on a more broad sense of the word. At the next stage, Maybe you are broadening your circle to include a spouse and maybe children. In that case, contribution becomes a little bit bigger than just yourself. Contribution then becomes, how are you supporting your household that contains other people, right? Maybe you are the sole breadwinner, and that way you are looking at what money am I bringing in is going to contribute to everyone here, right? If you are staying at home and contributing to your household fully and not outside of it, that is also a big bucket, right? It is how you are looking at providing for your family, full-time raising of your children, as well as supporting your spouse who might be out of the house working, in providing food for your family and taking care of the daily needs of your household. And that is a big job. So in that phase, looking at what is it that you're contributing. The next phase might be empty nest. It might be a later career. Maybe your children are moving out of the house either into college where we're still contributing to them financially, right? Or they have moved out and gotten their own job and starting their own domicile outside of your home. So then your contribution requirements obviously shift. So maybe you are looking at contributing to your community in a different way. Maybe you're looking at giving back in a different way. Or maybe your contribution is your vacation fund. What types of things are you saving for? So contribution looks different in that way. And then moving forward, looking at retirement or supporting aging parents. At that point, your contribution, you want to be looking outside of yourself as well. I want to take a step back too and look at how much our careers are part of our identity and how that affects us in all of the stages as well. Whether you're in the striving phase, in those early career phases where you're looking at getting in and moving up, is all very important to some people to make sure that they are in a career and an identity that feels authentic to who they are. And that is across the board. Finding a career that suits you and is giving you a broader purpose outside of just bringing home a paycheck. And doing that helps you increase the satisfaction in that bucket. Because that's really what we're looking for when I do this bucket activity. I ask you, what is going well in this bucket for you right now? Maybe you are happy with your job. Maybe you are happy with the money that you're bringing in. Maybe you are happy with the home that you're living in and how you are keeping it nice and tidy and organized. But maybe on the other side of that, you would really like to work on bringing in a little bit more money. Or maybe you want to start a side hustle that may someday lead towards opening that business as a full-time thing. Maybe you want to work on finding work that is more meaningful for you. Maybe you're unsatisfied in the current role that you have and want to look at more responsibility. Maybe be respected more in the role that you're in. Maybe have it be more challenging. Maybe you're bored. So lots of things we look at. And then from there, we build a plan to get you more of what you want in a contribution bucket. But with all four buckets, I am not someone who believes that you can ever have full balance, right? Because we all go through different seasons of life where one bucket has to be a little bit more of a focus than another one. So contribution, while we want satisfaction, but there will be fluctuation across our lifespan. I also want to look at how we identify. When we meet someone new, yes, we may shake hands, yes, we might introduce ourselves by our name, but isn't the next question often, and what do you do? Sometimes that's a loaded question. I feel like I have a hard time accomplishing what I do in a quick little introduction, but we really identify ourselves by our career. And when our career doesn't feel authentic to who we are, if it is not serving the purpose that we want it to serve, if it is not aligned with the values that we have identified for ourselves that are meaningful, if we don't feel a connection with the work that we're doing, that identity feels off. And that's why this bucket is one of the main four, because we want to make sure that we have an alignment in that bucket. And because it is such a part of our identity, we want to make sure the other buckets are also full, because what happens if you lose your job? What happens when you come to the season of life where you're retiring and choose not to work in that capacity any longer? If you have not nurtured the other three buckets, health, connection, and play, then without the contribution bucket being as full as it was, or finding other ways to fill contribution bucket, we may be floundering. So this is why these buckets are so important. Some things to think about over the next few weeks. Think about how you are contributing. Is your contribution aligned with your values? Is the work that you're doing valuable to you? How are you contributing to your household in other ways besides money and food and things that money brings? So with those things to think about, I'll sign off for today and check in next time where we will talk about connection as our next bucket. And if you want to connect, find me on lifedrafting.com and look forward to talking to you next time.